All right, welcome in everyone, ready for another deep dive. Today, we're going right to the core of it all, our relationships.
Oh, absolutely. Relationships are the bedrock, aren't they?
They really are, and you know me, I love a good research rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So you sent over some absolutely fascinating stuff, and today we're going to get into how we can make those connections even stronger, especially with positive communication. And one thing that really jumped out at me, affirmations.
Yes, affirmations. So much power packed into those,
I
right?
think so, yeah.
Eh,
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's set the stage. So we've got this whole mix of sources here. Some are about building strong connections in general.
Right, laying the groundwork.
Exactly. Then we've got some really solid research from relationship science. We're
Yeah.
talking big names, like Gottman, the guy who can practically predict divorce just by watching couples talk. Fascinating stuff.
Oh, his work is incredible. Really changed the game.
It really did. And then we'll round things out with some foundational pieces on what makes those long-term commitments, like marriage, really work.
So we're covering the whole spectrum, from the everyday stuff to the long haul.
Exactly. And the mission here for all of us is to walk away really understanding how this positive communication, and those affirmations especially, play a part in building healthier, more fulfilling relationships. All based on what you sent over, of course.
Love it. So I'm thinking to kick things off, why don't we start with the basics? Those fundamental building blocks of strong connections.
Sounds good to me. Let's break it down. What are we talking about here?
Well, communication itself, obviously.
Yeah.
How we really talk to each other and how we handle those inevitable bumps in the road, conflict. Can't forget about that.
Oh, yeah. Conflict is part of the deal, right?
It is. And of
Yeah.
course, intimacy and trust. Those are essential.
Couldn't agree more. And speaking of essential, we've got some research here that gets into some really specific stuff. There's a study from, hold on, let me make sure I get this right, the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. And it talks about how powerful it can be to see our partners in a positive light.
That's the one by Murray, Holmes, and Griffin, right? From 1996.
Yeah, that's the one. And that journal, just for context, is super well respected. They don't mess around with flimsy research.
Oh, for sure. They're top notch.
Okay, so let's get into it. What did this research actually find?
Well, buckle up because this is where it gets interesting. They found that when people have what they call positive illusions about their partners, it's actually linked to being more satisfied in the relationship.
Positive illusions. That sounds kind of, I don't know, like we're living in a fantasy world or something.
It might sound that way at first, yeah. But it's not about ignoring reality. It's more like seeing your partner through a slightly more favorable lens, maybe even idealizing them a little. And the research suggests this can be a good thing.
So you're saying a little bit of rose-colored glasses when you look at your partner could actually help the relationship.
That's what the study seems to suggest. And get this, they actually say positive illusions about a romantic partner serve a protective function in relationships. It's like this built-in buffer when things get tough.
Okay, now that's fascinating. So how does this tie back into using affirmations, those statements we were talking about earlier?
Well, think about it. When you use affirmations, you're actively choosing to focus on your partner's strengths, those things you admire about them. And by repeating those positive statements, you're essentially training yourself to see them in that more idealized way.
So it's like you're creating those positive illusions, or at least strengthening them with those affirmations.
Exactly. It's a deliberate shift in perspective, and it can have a real impact on how we experience our relationships.
I love that. Okay, so we've got those positive illusions to keep in mind, but there was another piece of research you sent that I think builds on this nicely, the one from the Handbook of Closeness and Intimacy.
Yes, that one's a gem. Reese, Clark, and Holmes, back in 2004. And this one, it dives into how important it is to feel truly understood by your partner.
Feeling seen and heard. That's huge in any relationship, right?
Absolutely. And they use this term perceived partner responsiveness. It's a mouthful, I know.
Yeah, a bit jargony. Break that down for me.
Basically, it means feeling like your partner really gets you. Like they hear what you're saying, they understand your feelings, and they value your perspective.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And I can see how lacking that would really hurt. Feeling dismissed or like your partner just doesn't get it. That's got to be rough.
It can be incredibly damaging. And that's where positive communication and those affirmations come back in. They're crucial for creating that feeling of responsiveness.
So how do they do that?
Well, when you express appreciation for your partner, when you acknowledge their feelings and experiences, when you offer those affirmations, you're telling them, hey, I see you, I hear you, and what you're going through matters to me.
It's like you're building a bridge of understanding between you.
Exactly. And the research shows when you consistently communicate in that positive and supportive way, it strengthens the bond, deepens the intimacy, and just creates a more fulfilling dynamic overall.
It makes you feel safe too, right? Like you can really be yourself, know you'll be accepted and understood. Okay, before we run out of time, I want to hit on that Gottman research. The stuff about what makes marriages last. What were some of the big takeaways there?
Ah, Gottman. His work is so insightful. He spent decades studying couples, and he's come up with some really practical advice.
He doesn't sugarcoat things either, does he?
Nope, he tells it like it is. And one of his biggest findings, the one everyone talks about, is the magic ratio.
The magic ratio, what's that all about?
It's all about the balance of positive to negative interactions, specifically during conflict. So Gottman found that in the happiest, most stable marriages, there are at least 5 positive interactions for every 1 negative interaction when couples are disagreeing.
5 to 1. Wow, that's a pretty big difference.
It is, and it highlights how important those positive moments are. Even when you're in the middle of an argument, if you can sprinkle in those bits of appreciation, those expressions of fondness, it can make all the difference.
So it's not about never fighting. It's about making sure the good outweighs the bad.
Exactly. Think of it like a bank account. You need to make regular deposits of positivity to have enough to draw on when those inevitable withdrawals of conflict happen.
Love that analogy. So we've got the affirmations, the positive illusions, feeling understood and validated, and now this magic ratio. It really paints a picture, doesn't it?
It does. And if you remember those affirmations we talked about earlier, the ones about building healthy relationships based on respect and trust, communicating openly and honestly, committing to nurturing the connection, those align perfectly with what the research is telling us.
It's all coming together.
Okay.
So for those listening, we've really been focusing on some powerful affirmations today. Things like, I cultivate healthy and fulfilling relationships based on mutual respect and trust. I communicate openly and honestly with my partner, and I'm committed to nurturing and strengthening my relationship. These are more than just words. They're like seeds you can plant in your mind.
And what I find so inspiring is that all of these sources, the personal development stuff, the hard science, the relationship experts, they all point to the same thing. We have the power to change our relationships for the better just by shifting our perspective and our communication patterns.
That's almost like a recipe, isn't it? A little bit of this, a little bit of that, and boom, you've got a stronger connection.
Well, maybe not quite that simple, but you get the idea. The point is, it's not magic. It's about making conscious choices day in and day out to nurture those positive interactions and create that feeling of connection.
So as you go about your day, think about how you can bring these ideas into your own relationships. Experiment with those affirmations. Make a conscious effort to be more positive and responsive with your partner, and just see what happens. What have you got to lose?
Exactly. It's all about trying things out and finding what works for you.
Now, before we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with something to ponder. We've been talking about the benefits of those positive illusions, seeing our partners in a favorable light. But where's the line between healthy idealization and setting ourselves up for disappointment with unrealistic expectations? That's something I'm still chewing on.
That's a great question, and there's no easy answer. It's this fascinating dance between our inner world and our outer reality, isn't it? And how we navigate that can make all the difference.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, I think we've done some good digging today. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into relationships and the power of positive communication. Till next time.
Always a pleasure.